running your own pick and place and other board life choices. There's a star there because we're actually not going to go over many other board life choices. This is the only one we're going to go over, is running a pick and place and running a board place. I'm Joe. Let me figure out if I can see this. There we go. Because I don't remember who I am. I'm an electrical engineer. I teach classes on hardware hacking and reverse engineering with kind of a strong security focus. And in doing that, I end up finding really good excuses to buy certain pieces of equipment. Last 5 years ago, it was PCB mills, and I had an excuse to buy PCB mills, so I could people to use them in producing circuit board design. And this time around, I decided to get a pick and place machine, because what's better than making your own PCBs that you can also populate them as well.
Hi, I'm Piotr Zentensky. I am embedded systems engineer, like a broad, weird term. But I founded OneBitSquared, like now it's almost a decade ago, Jesus. We help open source projects for the most part to make the hardware that they need for the project. And now we also started maintaining some of those projects because people got bored with them. So like Blackmagic Probe is probably our flagship product that we do. It's a JTAG debugger programmer that you don't need extra software besides a GDB for, which I like, and it seems a lot of people do. I also do the Icebreaker FPGA, which is FPGA dedicated for teaching and learning and using open source FPGA development tools. And then Glasgow, which I'm sure a lot of you are still waiting for. Yes, it's coming soon. And Bitmagic Logic Analyzer is another thing that they make. I do everything in KiCad, and I made the bad choices of having now 2 pick and place machines in my product.
Yeah, I should probably also mention, I did Tiger, which is a FTDI-based I/O board. That was a power supply campaign for a few years ago that people still use. And it's orange. But, questions. So, show of hands. Do you have boards that need assembly? Are you tired of convenient, inexpensive, fast, quick turn assembly systems? Are you not tired enough because you're sleeping at night? Does your current project need another project to help you miss your deadline? Are you really good at rationalizing equipment purchases? Yes. Okay. So if you said that yes to any of these, raise your hand. If you wish you could have said yes to any of these, raise your hand. Okay, listen more. This is why we're here. So what is a pick and place machine? It picks things up and places them. Specifically, we're talking about surface mount technology, pick and place machines for electronic components. There are big pick and place machines that do all sorts of things and build machines and equipment. But we're focused on circuit boards and surface mount components. The idea being you get a reel of components and have 10,000 resistors, and have a machine that's going to place all those resistors instead of having to sit there and do it manually. So what are the options? You could manually assemble it. I searched and found on Masters.io Alex assembling the SMT challenge, where you try and by hand solder a bunch of small components. You could do that for your project. That doesn't scale very well. If you have to build one board, perhaps it makes sense to do that. But if you have to do like 3 boards, suddenly it doesn't make sense. There are alternatives. So this is on JLC PCB, but there are others, PCB services, PCB and PCBWay, that you can go flip the switch on and do PCB assembly, and then you can try to learn in with free assembly for your PCB board, and you only get to use that coupon once per email address. And what I have found that to be really helpful with is when I'm doing prototypes or boards or anything, I have them go and all passives on all the resistors and capacitors that I know they have. It's really hard to screw them up because you put all your resistors in backwards, it's a big deal. And then I would get the board and I would solder on the big chip, the USB connectors, the other stuff that I need. And that worked out really well for me, and it's fast too, like within a week. And it's all automated, so you just submit the files and they do it all for you. Sometimes they ask you questions because you made stupid mistakes. And if they don't ask you questions, you think your mistake is just so stupid they didn't even want to bug you about it. If you keep doing this, you might want to go and find like a more reputable place. SUNY Circuits is a place around here. There's what's the one? Advanced Circuits in Colorado. There are domestic companies that do a really good job. Macrofab is another one. They do a really good job of catering to small batch stuff. And they also really good at scaling. So if you want 10 boards, they can do that. If you want 100 boards, they can do that. If you want 10,000 boards, they can probably do that too. If not, they will do it.
So Screaming Circuits has like dedicated Milwaukee, or whatever they're called. They upgrade you eventually. You get your own production line for your product.
So, but you're here because you want to know about poor life choices, not about the good choices. So how much does it cost you? So there are actually a couple cheaper options. There are kits you can buy on AliExpress, eBay, to build a couple pick and place machines. They're essentially like 3D printed parts cobbled together to move parts around. But this is the cheapest, like fully assembled, fully functional one that I have one over right here. And it actually does kind of work, which is a plus.
Love the color.
What?
Love the color.
Love the color.
SMT Nitro B5.
Oh, the color, yes. And then you can buy heaters as well. I was gonna say, yeah, I guess the contrast is a little off because that's a little more blue than that one. But anyway, blue and PnP. So I was talking about, how many of you need a project to get in the way of completing your actual project? Well, so pick and play, running on a pick and place machine is a project. Now, if you want a project to get in the way of that project, how about designing your own pick and place machine? So Steve Haas has an awesome series of YouTube videos where he's basically designed this machine from scratch. And this is the machine. It also has feeders as well, but we'll talk about this in a minute. But basically, you can buy this machine now. It's, I think, a 6-week lead time, $2,000. It's 3D printed parts, extruded aluminum. You bolt it together, and you have a functional pick and place machine, which is pretty amazing because 5 years ago, that would be impossible. 10 years ago, it would be unheard of for like 100 times the price. But yeah, there is an option for, and this is also open hardware, and it runs open PnP, which is interesting software solution to moving. A lot of people got really excited about these a few years ago, the Charm High, CHMT36VA, there's a couple of different variations, because this was the first affordable pick and place machine that had up and down vision, right? It had a camera pointing up, so you can look at the parts before you place them, and the camera looking down so you can find the spot on the board where to put it. There were other like inexpensive pick and place machines before this that didn't have cameras, and that means it didn't really work very well. But people still try to struggle and use them for very large components, and sometimes with success. But yeah, there are what's the place? I don't know if they use them anymore. Sorry, there's a place that basically has a dozen of these, and they managed to like have a small batch assembly place using a Circuit City, Circuit City, not Circuit City, the whole place. What? Cyber City. Okay. So, and then this is a new one, the Neoden YY1, which is kind of a step above these tier machines. There's other manufacturers that make this one, this style, where you have basically all the feeders together in one thing, and the little head goes actually over and pulls the parts out and mix them up, as opposed to having an automated feeder that just spits the parts out and nozzle. So the Neoden YY1 is kind of it's 2 nozzles. It's a little more expensive, but it's a commercial product with their own software. What's really interesting about the software is, you think about software and you think about software development, and there are hard problems and there are easy problems, right? And easy problems, in my mind, are a functional user interface, right? Easy problem should be easy to solve, right? What you get when you get some of these like low-end pick and place machines is they do a horrible job of the easy problem, which is having a functional user interface. But somehow they actually manage to get the computer vision and alignment stuff functional. You just have to figure out how to use it. So that's always kind of amazing. So you go to open PnP, which perhaps is a better user interface, but has some struggles with the computer vision side of things. But that's one of those things that's vastly improving over time.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go to a next step up in a way, or sideways in a way. So you can also look, if you are here in the US, you are very lucky because there's a huge second-hand market for machines, industrial machines. So
it's the market of all the people who have gotten out of the pick and place.
That's exactly right.
It's kind of like buying a used boat.
Buy a used boat, take on someone else's problem. So this is something that if you actually really decide to do this kind of stuff, don't bother with the Chinese machines, get one of these used machines. Especially like quad, is like you can get it probably even with feeders for $10,000. But you get a huge market of second-hand parts, a huge community of people that use them, know how to use them, know how to repair them. Plus, it's very simple on the inside. You can actually work on this thing. You can find replacement parts. You can work with this thing. With the Chinese machines, the problem is you buy it. If it works, you are lucky. If it doesn't work, you're on your own. Try finding replacement parts and fixing this thing. Or make the supplier convince them to give you some replacement parts. Sometimes it becomes quite an issue. But yeah, so it is the step up. It's like basically the machine itself is around $10,000, feeders for it, and this is the funny thing with the more expensive machines. The biggest expense ends up being feeders because these are precision devices with motors, electronics, sensors that have to work very accurately every time, millions of cycles. So they are actually quite expensive. It's like per feeder, it's like $2,500 can be if it's a big feeder, or like, or a bit less if these are like high commodity feeders. Then transport infrastructure. This thing weighs 800 pounds. You need a lift gate, but you can put it in your garage. It does fit. I tried, and we use that this way. And you still need what also advantage of the Chinese machines. They have everything built in. You need dry pressurized air. It has to be dry. You don't want any water in it or any oil in it. Then you need 220 power, which you can get here domestically, which is good. And maybe a vacuum pump if you want it to be quieter. You want to also have a quiet compressor. And space in your garage. So you have to be lucky enough to actually have a garage and not live in an apartment. Although I heard people putting this kind of stuff in their apartment.
Goodbye security deposit.
Okay, so there is this step up from this. This is a proper machine that CMs are buying these days, and they are putting in fully automated production lines. That is, you can get them around 150K, and infrastructure is like 20K. You need three-phase power for any modern machine. So if you are in a non-industrial area that already has three-phase power, it's like, yes, I'm specifically talking about the US here. It's like in Europe, it's easier. You can have three-phase power at home, but it might not be enough three-phase power. But here, there is a great solution to this: rotary converters. Ancient technology, just a rotating motor that generates the third leg. It sounds ancient and stupid, but it works and solves the issue of power. You need a big supply you need a much bigger compressor. These things, if you don't have an option with a vacuum pump inside, you need 80 CFM of 90 PSI air. This is a lot of air. You can buy, actually, for California Air, if you want a quiet compressor, their biggest model can supply that air. Tried it, works, until they finally installed the vacuum pump inside this thing. With the vacuum pump, it drops to like 10 CFM, which is much more manageable, and you can do this. But you still will need the air if you want the stencil printer, but that's a separate bad choice. What do you pay for software? Well, usually, so the machines come with software. You usually don't pay for the software. Even with the quad machines, yes, you get a license. It really depends on how far you want to push it. There are commercial products to automate and simplify the setup process. It usually is only necessary if you are actual CM, where you have dozens of projects a day, where you have to like crank through a lot of design files and prepare them and put them on the machine. This is when you have to pay for software, and that's also in like 100K range just for the software license, and then pay per seat and da. But usually you don't need that. And offline software programming, where you can sit at your desk and program that, that's usually also included for free. Feeders, yeah, so that really depends. The smaller machines is cheaper probably. You can talk to that maybe.
So you mentioned that some of the higher end feeders are like $2,500 each. That's like more than the low end pick and place machines, right? And you think about what pick and place machine needs to do is pick a part and place it. Pick it, place it. The feeder's job is to serve up the part to be placed. And when you think about a reel of resistors having 10,000 resistors in it, right? That means it has to work 10,000 times. And then, you're gonna put a new roll in tomorrow, a new reel in the day after, a new reel in the day after. So like millions and millions and millions of cycles. So that you need to have something that's actually durable. So if you're looking for some of these low-end machines, they are not built using equipment that's designed for 1,000,000 cycles. They're using stuff that's designed for 100,000 cycles or 10,000 cycles.
Yeah, and you have to add to this, it's like feeder is like quite an underappreciated feature of these machines. If you don't have a good enough feeder, it's like the pocket will not land in the same position every time. The machines usually pick up the parts blindly and then check their position on the nozzle. So if you have a small part and a small nozzle, the misalignment of the pocket just moving 1/10 of a millimeter is a lot. And it's like if, for example, the quad machines, they have the issue that the pockets float inside the feeder. So what I call with floating is you pick up 10 parts, and after 10 parts, the pocket will have moved inside the feeder because the back pressure of the tape and friction is pushing the pocket backwards. And every day you start assembly, the first few boards, the pocket will move and then eventually settle if you are continuously producing. So this is something on a handler machine is not a thing. Maybe when you start at the beginning of the day, you use the vision of the machine, which also quad can do. You scan all the pockets of all the feeders, memorize that, and then you can run the whole day. The pocket will stay in the same position. It becomes bigger issue than you think.
Yeah, so you get what you pay for. You typically do not get what you pay for. Don't expect anything more than the bare minimum function on any of these things. So when you get a $2,500 machine, expect a $2,500 machine, or maybe a $1,000 machine that's priced at $2,300. Yeah, $2,500. If you're buying a $10,000 machine, expect a $5,000 machine that you pay an extra $5,000, right?
Yeah, and then eventually, if you end up at the top end, it's like they will come to your place. You will get training for a full week, and they will teach you how to use the machine. They will support it. They will repair it. You will get free parts replacements for at least 3 years, if not longer. So you are sure this thing will work. And in case of Hanwha, I'm sure Yuki has the same thing. It's like they have 24-hour service. If something breaks down, they will be at your place to fix it within 24 hours.
So, what more choices has Joe made? So, my first foray was my Neogen 4, which I got used for a good deal. At least it would seem like a good deal until I realized how much time it was taking. What I like about this machine is you can't see out, but as opposed to kind of charm high grade machines that have a big shared feeder and have to manually push, this has 4 separate heads, and so it has sort of decent feeders that will feed parts, and you can pick up 4 parts, camera, take a picture of 4 parts, and then place 4 parts. And then pick up 4 more parts, take a camera picture of 4 parts, and then place 4 parts. So what I had set this setup for is I put all the passive devices I frequently use on this. So when I want to go and put a board together, right, I know that I have like a bunch of resistors with common values, a bunch of capacitors that I can use regularly, a USB connector that I use almost all the time. So I can go and get all that stuff placed on the board, and then I can go and manually place the microcontroller that I'm trying to use or test, or the other components that I'm trying to introduce to the board. So I fit this into my workflow pretty nicely, and so even if I was doing a one-off, it turned out to be a time saver for me because I had it set up that way. But I wanted to do this a little more portable because, again, I teach classes and I wanted to pick a place machine I could bring to teach classes with. And so first I got the Lumen PnP, which I mentioned before, and I assembled it, and this is a great project. It's an fully open source design. It works great. If you have a small batch of things that you want to make, this is probably a good place to start. However, it's kind of like a glorified 3D printer, right? And I mean, that's how it gets to be what it is, right? It's based on a lot of the same controller boards and parts and rail systems that makes the 3D printer. But this thing is going to assemble some boards. It's a bit slower than the other machines. And so if you're putting one board together, that's fine. If you're doing 10 boards, it's going to start slowing you down. If you're doing 100 boards, then you're going to get frustrated with that. What I ended up doing is getting this one, the T2, which is that AliExpress fancy one, which one of the things I like about it is it's fully assembled, it's small, but it also is designed out of the box to work with open PnP, so I don't have to worry about crappy software. Well, I don't have to worry about crappy vendor software. And it's interesting because the difference between the Lumen and this one, like this one, I realized very quickly that if I'm going to use this in class, I need to have an enclosure for it, because this is the kind of thing that's going to like cut your fingers off if you move it while you're not while you have in the wrong spot. Whereas the Lumen is kind of more of a 3D printer. If you have your fingers in the wrong spot, you're going to knock out calibration. So it's trade-off. Which one's better for you? Depends how much you like your fingers. Peter, what core choices have you made?
So my core choices are basically being at the wrong time at the wrong place, I think. So when you end up with something like this. But so I got this quad pick and place machine. It's actually a refurbished machine by PPM. It's Massachusetts, in that area, they are there. And Go PPM sells these machines. They take, this is a design from the 80s. So this is a very old design of the machine. It's heavy as heck. It's all like steel tubing and like cast iron cable and whatnot, which makes it, for especially the price, really rigid and rugged and good choice. It has Windows computer built in, which bring your own with the Chinese machines is usually the case. It has the software on this. So why did I end up with this is it was 2013, 2014 when I started Funded Square. Like in the first year, I spent on this EM because I didn't want to assemble. Well, assembling in China was much more complicated back then than it is now. Now you have something like JLC PCB and PCBWay and whatnot, where you can just submit the design files. It's so much easier. I would not have gotten this machine if these services existed back then. I didn't want to do it in China because I had bad experiences from previous jobs doing that in China and getting boards with capacitors placed for resistors and resistor placed for capacitors even though the files were correct, stuff like that. So basically, especially back then, you had to fly to China, go to the factory, make sure it is assembled right, and then you had a product. This is for bigger production and more complicated stuff still the case. It's like I really recommend go to Shenzhen, do it there if you are going that route. Go to the factories, talk to the boss. That's how it is done correctly from that solution. So back then, I was assembling here in the US, and basically in half a year, I spent more money than the cost of the machine. And I was like, well, I'm actually interested in the pick and place stuff. And I had friends that supported me in this terrible choice. So I got this machine. We flew over there, we expected the machine. I got 1 day training, which was very lucky. And then I came back, the machine got delivered, installed it. It took a few days to get all the infrastructure set up. So yeah, lots of tape on the floor, MSC64 monitor in the corner, as it should be. Yeah, tape, poor choices. So this is icebreaker assembly. That's completely fine. This is a nice big stack. So if you have boards with if there's like a trade-off, there's like a crossover point, like Icebreaker and Blackmagic Pro have few enough parts and big enough parts. It's 0402. It's like Shanghai might have problems with 0402s, but it's like this machine can place 0402s all day long, all night long, no problem. You have to know how the machine breathes, like with the pocket move, as I mentioned before, but it's fine. You can get it to work. Yeah, and eventually, After the icebreaker, the Glasgow project came about, it has about as many parts on one board as the whole panel of the icebreakers. And we, unfortunately, we're very successful, so we had to make over 2,000 of them. And we had all the parts here in the US. And okay, and no parts there, money is draining. What do? We have all the parts here in the US, we would have to send everything to China, pay import taxes there, then bring it back again, pay again, or find someone to assemble it here in the US. Basically financially impossible unless we take out a loan to pay for it. So we were like, okay, I guess if we take a little bit bigger loan out, we can actually upgrade to a modern machine. There you go. That's a really big, expensive bad choice. And again, caused by circumstance and the moment in time and the situation that I was in. If there was no chip shortage and I could have ordered all the parts directly to the CM in China, I would not have done this. So today, probably I would not have done this. I would just work with the CM in China, maybe even took the ticket and flew to Shenzhen, and it wouldn't be a problem. But now, I have this toy that comes in a packaging that looks like a satellite. It's actually a moisture barrier bag, a full body. It's completely sealed all around because Hanwha, formerly Samsung, it's a Korean machine. It is actually shipped from Korea. So it has to go on a ship, and that's why it is sealed so nicely. This is a garage door, it's this opening. So this is how big this thing is. It's like, yeah, you can get it in, but you cannot really walk around it unless you have a 2 parking spot garage. So I actually had needed a bigger space than my actual garage. So there is a little bit of an upgrade, plus the compressor, as I mentioned before, and the rotary converter for power. So yeah, it at least comes with proper documentation. The cool thing about this, it comes with all wiring diagrams of the whole machine. Plus, all the parts in the machine, besides like very specific milled parts, is all off-the-shelf stuff. It's like Festo vacuum and fresh like air handling stuff. If any of the solenoids break, you can just order them and replace them. I made like rail extensions, 3D printed them and attached them to this thing. I was surprised how easy it is actually to work with. The software side of things is a little bit less convenient because they want you to buy this super ultra expensive software, or like they work with that company that makes it, and it's like, I'm working on reverse engineering the binary format for this machine so that I can do more stuff, but one day. For now, like CSV files is actually good enough. The programming of the machine is actually quite easy. But yeah, don't do it.
So I kind of have something I've said to many people many times. Like, if someone asks you if they should get married, or asks you if they should have kids, or now asks you if they should get a pick and place machine, the only right answer that you can give a friend is no. The only time you should ever do it is if you are sure enough and certain enough that you're going to go above and against the advice that everyone has told you otherwise, that you should go ahead and do it. So why not? It's more expensive. If you're saving money by getting it, you're wrong. It's not going to work that way. It takes up more of your valuable time. If you're short on time and you think this is going to save you time, you're wrong. It's not going to save you time. There are lots of hidden costs. You bought a pick and place machine, and now you need feeders, and now you need parts, and now suddenly it's like, oh, well, I need 10 resistors, but I might as well buy a reel of them because, you get what you pay for if you're lucky. You get what you pay for or something less than what you pay for. You're never going to get more than what you pay for. With a low-end machine, you're going to find out your rework time is greater than the pick and place time. So it takes 2 minutes for the thing to go and populate all the components on the board, and then you take it over and you have to like touch this one, move this one, flip this one, fix that one, and you're doing manually more than what the pick and place machine spent to do. It's still saving. Yeah, it's depending on the price, and also that's still less time it would have been to manually place all those components. But you got to keep that in mind. And we are almost done. We started a little late, so we're gonna finish a little late, and I know there's snack or refreshments or something coming up, so I wanna be done too. Really, why would you wanna do this? If you wanna do anything that's outside of a standard build process, if you wanna use weird components or things in different ways, or you wanna start populating things upside down or some strange stuff like that. If you want to avoid back and forth shipping, like Peter mentioned, you ship stuff to China, pay tariffs on it, get it assembled, get it shipped back, pay tariffs again on it. That's going to be annoying. You don't want to be remotely debugging something that's out somewhere else, and you also don't want them to stop their high-end contract manufacturing manufacturing line while you go and debug one issue before they resume and fix everything, because it's going to cost more than if you were to just make them all and throw them out and try again. You don't have to go overseas to go fly and fix things. You can scale at the pace that you want to. You don't have to use this machine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you can budget it and make sense to use one and in small volumes, like I did with my Teardown machine, where I use it maybe 2 or 3 times a month, but it saves me 10 hours each time I use it. It could be worth it. You can small batch and prototype at your pace. You can do like a test and you assemble it and you test it and it doesn't work. You change the board design, get the new board, reassemble, and do it very quickly. You can also make running design changes. As you're going, if you decide that one LED is too bright or one resistor is the wrong size, you can go and change them very easily without having to go through a change order process.
And if you, again, do the wrong thing, you can get this kind of a reward. I'm not sure this is very visible, but it's like the machine, it's like it was not placing the connectors. It's the Hanwha, it's the expensive toy. But eventually you will see this is picking up parts and placing them. It's 6 at a time. It has 6 heads.
It's not sped up.
It's not sped up. This is the normal speed of the machine. It's so it used to take me on the quad basically to assemble. So let's say I wanted to assemble 100 boards. It took basically like a day from the morning till evening and really feeding the machine non-stop. It's like takes 25 minutes per panel to assemble. This takes 3 minutes to assemble the whole panel, 15 boards. I used to have only 10 on this, and now it's 15 in like 3 minutes. It's pretty big reward for like a lot more money. But if you can like justify it to yourself or whatever your better partner or the company, then it's actually can be a benefit of being vertically integrated.
So if you don't believe us, I was actually trying to get this all up and running to be started today, but we'll have the pick-and-place machine out in the demo area now, but tomorrow we'll probably have it all set up so you can go in and do a little pick-and-place programming and set up the machine, place some components. The past 24 hours have given me plenty of material to put into this talk, but it has not given me a foolproof process for populating one of these boards. We've got this little pick-and-place patch, right? And you see this is the first one I assembled. I got one LED to light up. It's kind of like a claw game, you put your money in and it goes and it grabs things, and it's rigged against you, and it costs you a lot of money, and there's no guarantee, no matter how much money you pump into it, it's ever going to be successful. So really, it is just like a claw game. This one I actually had a few more. I had some blue LEDs and red, and like almost half of them are lit up, but some of them are even actually upside down. I'm not sure how that happens. Like, how do they can't flip the board? But yeah, so we made more light chases, so you don't have to. I'm Joe, this is Peter. Feel free to ask us questions, but I think we're gonna mosey on to wherever this group